wouldn't it be like the most petty, humiliating, yet startling thing if I just fired my hat at him? So I didn't tell anybody this. I just did it. I just fired my hat right in Seth's face. And he kind of went back, didn't do the fall in rehearsal, of course, but he immediately went into the Seth laugh. Oh, okay, we got to keep that, man. I'm Ron Howard.
My name is Adam Newport-Berra, and I am the cinematographer on the studio.
And this is Variety's Making a Scene.
You got a note from me like you had on Beautiful Mind?
You remember that?
Yeah, I sure do.
Seth and Evan sent me the script. We talked through the script and just so I understood the tone and their approach, and they told me about the oneers, which was, daunting and exciting, but I just loved the writing.
When I met with Seth and Evan, the first thing they said is they wanted to shoot everything in one shot. I think they were both sort of tired of shooting standard coverage, and they really wanted to do something that felt alive and really dynamic and really pushed everyone to be firing on all cylinders.
It's really ambitious, and all the actors were saying, but it's actually really fun. It's actually really liberating, and I couldn't quite put that together. I've never staged a scene the way they were doing it. So as a director, I'd never really experienced anything like that, and nor obviously as an actor. But I get it. There's an energy, there's a lot of freedom. They give room for little improvs and ideas, and it's such a brilliant cast that of course they're smart to do that.
Because we were doing oneers, we knew that we had to keep the shot interesting at all times. I think actually a pitfall of some oneers is that they can become stagnant or they can become static. And so we really forced ourselves to keep the camera moving and to keep the action moving. So we were often creating blocking and movement where it didn't feel natural at the time. We'd often ask actors, once we panned off of them from their close-up, to run around the camera and meet us on the other side of the scene. It was a bit of a learning curve for the actors and for the camera operator and just for everyone to understand what we were doing. By the end of the show, everyone got it, and a lot of the actors were sensing where the camera was and actually giving us those options without us even having to ask for it.
They do it enough times that there's a kind of spontaneity and a fluidity to it. And there are a few places where they can kind of blend some takes together, but pretty much they're oneers, it's real. But they were so relaxed and so in command of it. I had a blast. I
think it produces a really interesting result in that it forces everyone to think about every single moment of every single scene, and everyone had to be on point, everyone had to be paying attention, which was really fun, and it really meant that everyone was bringing ideas at all times.
All right, look, I know we're in a meeting, but who wants to hear a really funny story?
Shooting in the conference room was actually one of the more challenging sets on the show because it's so confined and because it's surrounded by glass, so we're always dealing with reflections. Seth and Evan really wanted to make sure that we could float over the table and float in between people, and we tested a lot of different ideas and rigs, and Seth actually had the brilliant idea of just cutting a hole in the table and replacing it in post when we saw it, which was really helpful. And we basically were able to have the edge of the table in the set and then move the camera in and out. We had little movable leaves that we could take out so Mark, our camera operator, could move inside the table. We were able to craft a really complex serpentine shot through the space. It made it really fun, really dynamic in a way that a scene at a table often isn't. But we also had all the windows inside of the space on gimbals. Instead of being mounted on the four corners or along the sides, the windows were actually mounted in the middle on the top and bottom so that the panel could swing left or right. We were able to angle the window in a certain direction so that we wouldn't see our own reflection. It's very complicated, and it's interesting to see how complicated something that seems so simple can be.
But if I may, I have an idea that I think could be very, very cool.
I read it, and I was so flattered because it was designed around Beautiful Mind and me as the director, and a hilarious rock in a hard place for the Seth character. And I thought it was so well written.
I had just finished shooting A Beautiful Mind, so it's like 2001, and we're having a friends and family screening. It plays great, through the roof.
I just sent word I'd just love to have a conversation about it. Really, I just wanted to say to them, it's great, but this is a big part. I mean, this is not just kind of a cute cameo. This is a real role. And if I do it, I would like to try to be actually good, not just kind of cameo good. So who's directing? And they said, we are. And I said, okay, I'm all yours.
Everybody loves it. Oh, except one guy. A young, tiny, little Matt Remick.
And I love that it was a version of me, but I also love that it was, kind of an asshole version. It's fun to play a jerk who does jerky things once in a while. It's an intense version. It's heightened to be as funny as it can be, but it's all grounded in plausibility because people get pissed off. This stuff's emotional. Everyone's got a lot at stake. That's just the way this business works. And of course, there's always tension between executives, the financial side, and what the creatives are trying to do. Us creatives are not always right, but we think we are most of the time.
I mean, hands down, it was the single worst note I've ever had in my entire life.
Fairly early in my career, not my first one or two movies, but early in my career, there was a subplot that I just loved. I loved it. I thought it was great. The studio was really on me to cut shooting days. And at one point it was even suggested maybe I could trim some of that subplot out. And I really stood my ground. And I remember thinking, man, if they push me to do this, I'm walking. And after our second screening, internally, without the studio's influence, the first thing that had to go was that subplot. And I thought, wow, I could have quit the movie over this, and here I am throwing it out.
Listen to me, because I will never, ever. You lame-ass idiot!
There's a lot of physical comedy in the show. It had to be very intricately planned because the stunt is happening while dialogue is happening. And I think that's what's really fun about the show is it's this really fine mix of making sure we nail the comedy while also making something that is visually really exciting.
When we did our first run through, I had it in the back of my mind, what could I do to make him fall over a cart? I mean, I'm smaller than Seth, I'm older. Wouldn't it be like the most petty, humiliating, yet startling thing if I just fired my hat at him? So I didn't tell anybody this. I just went through, and I wasn't sure I was even gonna do it as the rehearsal unfolded, but the energy was there, and I just did it. I just fired my hat right in Seth's face. And he kind of went back, didn't do the fall in rehearsal, of course, but he immediately went into the Seth laugh. Oh, okay, we gotta keep that, man. So that led to him getting a hat in the face maybe, 12, 14 times, but they liked it and they kept it. That was a Ron Howard original. Yes, I will say, that was a little contribution.
I do remember Ron recommending that. We all love that idea, and Seth really loves physical stunts like that. I mean, I've done quite a few with them, and he's able to pull them off really hilariously. Honestly, we were always just inviting as much input as we could from all the actors. I think everyone really saw what we were doing and wanted to bring as much sort of action and life to it. There was a lot of discussion of whether Seth was going to do the stunt or if we were going to have a stunt person do it. I think Seth really wanted to do it.
There was a guy that did like a thing that I'm not even sure they used it because Seth did it also, but they tried it a couple of different ways.
In the end, I think it was a mix of Seth and a stunt double doing the actual fall.
What the fuck is wrong with you? I'm sorry, dude. This is good shit.
I mean, what the hell were you thinking? It's a classic, right?
Seth and Evan really wanted to honor sort of this nostalgic version of Hollywood that we all love, sort of the golden age of Hollywood. And I think for us, that felt very warm and very glowing. And so I think naturally that's just how I tended to light things. And also the spaces that we shot in really lent themselves to that. The material was so good with this, and there was so much to be mined in terms of the visual language that I was really excited to take it on. When I pitched myself to Seth and Evan, I brought a lot of references that were from the drama, action, thriller world. I really wanted to do something that felt real and rich and lived in and build a world. And I think that they were excited about that. I think they wanted to do something comedic that also felt like real world building and felt really immersive.
I fucking love it.
Yes! Oh, man, that is great. You see, that's why it's fantastic having actors who are also producers.
Yeah.
And the episodes just go by like that. And I think, though, that Wonder Flow brings a kind of energy, and you really lean in watching these episodes. At least I do. Of course, it's my world. I love seeing them shine a bright light on some of the foibles and some of the petty, crazy, neurotic thinking in every corner of this business.